Hey, the song's so true, right? God's love is what we need. I don't know if you've ever done that before, but you listen to a song and it has a lyric in it and you just kind of associate it with God, right? Who knows what they're meaning when they say that phrase, but man, your love is what I need. Man, definitely the Lord, right? Definitely God. Gosh, what if I tried to get all the love from another human and I just try to suck it out of that human? Boy, that's probably going to be tiring for that human being that I'm objectifying there, right? Yeah, it's not going to work. And it's funny, in the book of Esther, that's what we see is a lot of objectification, right? Trying to get out of someone something that you can't really ever get. You can't ever get your needs satisfied because they just weren't created to meet all your needs. And so God's love is what we need, that's for sure. So welcome to the Morning Devo with Bo. Paul is already in the house commenting. Super stoked to see her, that's for sure. And it's 9:09. It's May 30th, day after Memorial Day. Hope you had a great weekend. And you can always check out the archives of the devotions at my YouTube channel. That's just my personal YouTube channel, Bo Willette. And if you're following up on hockey, the Vegas Golden Knights have earned their ticket into the Stanley Cup Finals. Boy, I loved both teams, Vegas and Dallas, and I was rooting for them both. So it's always tough when you're rooting for both teams, but there's some neat guys on both squads, and certainly rooting for them personally. But someone's got to kind of move on. And so it's going to be Vegas Golden Knights against oh my gosh, the underdogs, the Florida Panthers, who really have turned it up a notch or two. They are in fifth gear for sure, doing so well, and good for them. What a playoff series they've had. So anyway, that's a little hockey update from Bo too. But let's get into Esther chapter 3. So Esther has had some incredible beauty treatments. If you are out there and you've ever been into makeup, man, chapter 2 is the one for you, right? We saw that, man, these people, they really got into the makeup. Not just the makeup, but, just everything. And I've studied a little bit ancient beauty and how much, especially in affluent society, say in Greece and Rome, how much money was spent on beauty products of the day. Stuff would be shipped in from all over just to meet the demands of wealthy women in these areas. It would take a day for them to put on their hair, to get their hair right. Unreal. The products, unreal. So, today it's a lot different, right? You go down to, what is it, like Sephora or something, and you go buy, 150 things and you feel guilty. You're like, oh my God, I spent all that money on beauty products. Well, I bet you it's not like the elite women of old. That's for sure. So Esther and her cousin, who the cousin has been Mordecai has been taking care of Esther. And now Esther's in with the king. The king loves her. She's beautiful. She's super discerning. She seems to be really kind, not so boisterous, not so upfront, but direct in a polite way. And it really struck the king in an interesting way. And, the king takes her, and she is now exalted to this place of queen. So they keep their ancestry a secret with the king. So sometime later, we don't know how much later, in chapter 3, it says, King Xerxes promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, over all other nobles, making him the most powerful official in the empire. All the king's officials would bow down before Haman to show him respect whenever he passed by, for so the king had commanded, but Mordecai refused to bow down and show him respect. So all the king's officials would bow before Haman, but Mordecai wouldn't. And you got to understand the backstory here. You have an Agagite, someone who's not really Persian, right? Someone who's not from, in a sense, the Medo-Persian Empire, that gets exalted by the king of the Medes in the Persian Empire to this place, this government place. And it's a real high up place, and it's such a high place where everybody's got to kind of pay him homage. But the problem is this guy's a descendant of people that have really had it in for the Jewish people. And the Jewish leadership back in the day, just didn't really do what God told them to do. Like for instance, Saul was told to, hey, take care of the people in the land that are waging war against you guys. This is your land. You are to go in there and take it. They can leave in peace, but if they want to go to war with you, you got to go to war with them, and you got to take care of it. Well, Saul doesn't do that. And, lo and behold, these descendants just keep going on. They keep hating Israel, and it comes up to this time where hundreds of years later, the same thing's going down. There's this hatred that takes place. And so Mordecai says, hey, I'm not going to bow down and show him respect. Then the palace officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, why are you disobeying the king's command? They spoke to him day after day, but still he refused to comply with the order. So they spoke to Haman about this to see if he would tolerate Mordecai's conduct, since Mordecai had told them that he was a Jew. So Haman saw that Mordecai would not bow down or show him respect, and he was filled with rage. He had learned of Mordecai's nationality, so he decided it was not enough to lay hands on Mordecai alone. Instead, he looked for a way to destroy all the Jews throughout the entire empire of Xerxes. So here Haman realizes that Mordecai is a Jew. Mordecai's unveiled that to some officials. It's gotten back to Haman. Haman knows the history. He knows their hatred towards the Jewish people. And hence, there's some, in a sense, inner war going on. So that's kind of the story. That's the narrative here. And, we see this all the time in our families, don't we? You go to a family gathering that you haven't seen people, and it's like they tell you, oh, this thing happened here, and this happened there in your background, and your great-grandfather, this happened, and your great-great-grandpappy, this happened, and your great-great-grandmother, this what's happened. And you find there's a lot of division and dividing factions of your family. And it's really weird when you hear it, because you might be a peaceful person and you might be like, wow, that's crazy, But, prejudice runs deep, in people, and that's really common. We shouldn't be shocked by that. It's really true how not so long ago, people were super prejudiced. But it doesn't, just because we have, in a sense, equal rights according to the law, it doesn't mean that all human beings, just their prejudice goes away. We still, in a sense, have a lot of prejudice, and towards people groups and things like that. And it shouldn't be like that. But it's really true. That's how it kind of rolls in our heart. Whoop, I'm going to sneeze probably. Ooh, allergies. Oh my God, here we go. Okay. Did I get it out? There, I got it out. I was waiting for that thing to come. But here, I think one thing I always have to just continually to remember is that me too have an issue. And to say I don't have an issue is probably worse. It's probably that I do have an issue. In a sense, there is a truth that we have to admit to ourselves, and that is there is bias and prejudice in us. There's no doubt about that. How much of that can be debated, right, in our life. Where do you live? What kind of people are around you? What kind of, people do you like to be around? Sometimes we can, kind of pick what restaurants do you like? You can kind of ask questions and you kind of see where you're at, sometimes with it, which you kind of feel comfortable. Now, just because we're comfortable with something doesn't quite mean we're prejudiced. It just means we're comfortable, around that. But it could reveal, it could reveal maybe something in there, But that's like just on us personally, it's just stuff for us personally to think about, and just throughout a day. Hey, God, I don't want to be that way. Lord, help me to learn to love everybody. Help me learn to love everybody. Care for different people. And not just a particular group. Now, if you want some practical things on what to do, if you want to learn how to really work on this, is just go to a rehabilitation center and start volunteering time. And if you do that, you're going to run into everybody. You're going to run into all kinds of people. Different nationalities, different ethnicities, different everything. And then you'll be there face to face with them, learning about their life. And you'll find that they're human beings just like you. And but that's a practical thing we can do. But Mordecai and Haman, man, they had a background. Mordecai didn't want to reveal because he knew that there was Agagites. He knew there was people around that hated Jews. They probably heard the lingo, right? Probably Esther and Mordecai grew up hearing people bag on the Jewish people all the time, saying things about them, criticizing, making puns on them, making fun of them, different things like that. And that was something that Mordecai knew, like, hey, I don't need to be revealing stuff. But when he does, of course, Haman's there, the Agagite, to pounce on him. And this is an issue that, of course, because the past Jewish leaders didn't deal with things properly, it rears its ugly head. So true in my own world. If I don't deal with things properly, it rears its ugly head. I mean, isn't that so true? Yeah. And, think of your kids. It's funny. It's like, we all want our kids to, walk these amazing walks with God, right? But, our kids are a product of us in a lot of ways. And, they pick up on our good, but they also pick up on our not so good. And not just us, but everybody that's around, And so they pick up on other people's goods and not so goods, and all that stuff rubs on our children. And sometimes when we're looking at our kids, right, we can see maybe even where we didn't do the right thing, and it's not to beat ourselves up. It's not to whip ourselves. Well, I mean, what's the point of that? Nothing. There's no point in that. But the point is just to realize that, man, I need grace in my life. I need mercy in my life. It's like, yeah, I could rip on people out there and just judge everybody in the world, but boy, look in the mirror, Bo, right? It's like there's plenty to work on today. When I look at my kids, I can see parts of me that, reflect on them, the not so good parts. And sure, there's good parts, and I'm into that, and that's great. But we have to realize we have to be sensitive to our own lacks as well. If not, we become prideful, and we really, can really start looking down on everybody. But we got to remember that when we look at those failure parts too, that we don't get so depressed, that we remember that God's grace and His mercy lifts us from despair, right? He will, in a sense, fill the gaps in their life, just as He does us. He can do that in their life as well. And we need to trust Him with that, with our kids. But we see that Israel's past leadership, they didn't do the right thing, and it kind of comes back now during this time of this Agagite and his anger with the Jews in their past wars. And it says, Now, when Haman saw that Mordecai would not bow down or show him respect, he was filled with rage, and he had learned of Mordecai's nationality. So he decided not enough to lay hands on him alone, but he wanted to do genocide to the entire Jewish people. So in the month of April, during the 12th year of King Xerxes' reign, lots were cast in Haman's presence. The lots were called Purim to determine the best day and month to take action. The day selected was March 7th, nearly a year later. When Haman approached King Xerxes and said, "There is a certain race of people scattered throughout the provinces of your empire who keep themselves separate from everyone else." Interesting. We get a really interesting history on the Jewish people in Babylon or the Medo-Persian Empire. And that was that they separated themselves. That's where the term Pharisee comes from, separated ones, right? They really separated themselves from the other people. They didn't want to become tainted, in a sense, corrupted with, they knew that they were in captivity because of their sins of breaking the law of Moses. And so they really made an attempt to stick with their national language, right? To continue to speak Hebrew, right? Like, how many of us continue to speak the languages that we were from, that we came from? German, French, these kind of things. A lot of us don't, some do, and that's cool. But a lot of us don't. We've kind of assimilated into the English culture. And that's kind of what a lot of people did back then as well. But not the Israelites. Man, they really stuck to their guns, and they separated from everyone. Their laws are different from those of any other people. They stuck to the law of they wanted to stick to the law of Moses, and they refused to obey the laws of the king. So it was not in the king's interest to let them live. If it pleased the king, issue a decree they to be destroyed, and I will give 10,000 large sacks of silver to the government administrators to be deposited in the royal treasury. So there's a payoff going on, right? Government payoffs. Hey, I give you this, you vote that. Whoa. Isn't that interesting? All the way back in Esther, you see a lobbyist go, right? Hey, this is for our interest. This is good for you too. This is how it's going to benefit you. So hey, why don't we give you a kickback and you vote this way? How about, does that sound good? You good with that? We're good with that. We're going to make a lot of money. Let's do it, okay? And they do it. Government officials should not be paid much at all. $50,000 a year. You want to work in the government? You work in the government, but you ain't getting rich in the government, right? No, maybe not 50K. Okay, let's give them 100K, right? But you know what? Let's not get rich off this thing. No $257 million. No, nothing crazy, No, that's not how it should go. And definitely lobbyists, man, not a good thing, right? Money's on the line, people getting rich off war, military-industrial complex, people investing in things that they know is going to happen before it happens. It just, man, these things are, what a bummer, And it's a bummer our world's like that, and we're all a part of it. It's just, we've really gone astray. And the king agreed, confirming his decision by removing his signet ring from his finger and giving it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Jews. The king said, "The money of the people are both yours to do with as you see fit." So on April 17th, the king's secretaries were summoned, and the decree was written exactly as Haman dictated. It was sent to the king's highest officers, the governors of the respective provinces, and the nobles of each province in their own scripts and languages. The decree was written in the name of King Xerxes and sealed with the king's signet ring. Dispatchers were sent by swift messengers into all the provinces of the empire, giving the order that all Jews, young and old, including women and children, must be killed, slaughtered, and annihilated on a single day. This was scheduled to happen March 7th the next year. The property of the Jews would be given to those who killed them. Wow, all-out genocide on the Jewish people, right? Obviously, there's been some talk about the Israelites, the Jews. Mordecai doesn't want to reveal himself, tells Esther, don't reveal who you are. Obviously, there's a fear of that. So when it does get revealed, Haman, who's now in a place of power, really has a position to lobby for the extermination of the Jewish people. And this takes place. This isn't the only time this has happened in the Jewish people's history already in the Bible. We've already kind of read about this stuff. We've read about this during the time of Moses, right? So this has happened quite a bit. And it's going to happen more and more as we go on. And it's very interesting. This people group has been wanted to be terminated by many, many people for so long. Why? What is up with the Jewish people? Why do so many people want to kill all the Jews in the world? All of those of Hebrew descent? It's very interesting. You know, is there another people group of that brings about such animosity and such hatred? And gosh, it's really an interesting question to ask. But you see that, man, the people of Israel have certainly gone through a ton. What does the Bible say to me? It says, Bo, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It says, hey, Bo, if you're against, my people, Yahweh's people, then, man, Yahweh's against you. Whoa. Okay. Well, And you know what? Me and Christ, too. It's like I associate with a Jewish carpenter. I identify with the Jewish carpenter. He's my Lord and he's my Savior. And Jesus said, if they did this to me, they're going to do this to you too. Maybe they ain't going to like you because they didn't like me either. Wow, that's intense, to identify with someone. We identify with the Jewish person, right? Jesus. And that sometimes brings about some conflict because people have a hatred for Jesus. Why? Why would people hate Jesus? Why would they put him on a cross and crucify him? What did he do? What did he do that was so bad? He had mercy on people that were sexually messed up. He had mercy on people that were, stuck in thievery jobs, pressured to do the Romans, work. What did he do that was so bad? He stirred up the government. That's what he did. And that really bummed people out. So the copy of this decree was to be issued to every law in the province and proclaimed to all the people so that they would be ready to do their duty on the appointed day. Wow. In the king's command, the decree went out by swift messengers, and it was also proclaimed in the fortress of Susa, and the king and Haman sat down to drink, but the city of Susa fell into confusion. Wow. A lot of people confused, a lot of people disrupted by this. Do we obey the government or do we not? I mean, this is a serious issue, even in our day and age. Do you obey everything the government says, no matter what? The hegemonical power structures, the oligarchies, of the world, do you obey everything? What's going to happen if you don't? The conflict that comes into our families, our lives, by these decisions. Here we see it again in the Bible. The Bible is so relevant. It's so relevant. When people say it's not relevant, they just haven't read it. It is talking exactly about what goes on in our day today. People are undesirable today to power structures. And when people are not desired, there's power structures that can probably do something about that. And that's been happening forever. This isn't some new concept. This has been happening all the way back here with Haman and his animosity against the Jewish people and the different propagandas of the government that go on. And so what a stressful time. And we're going to have to see how Mordecai and Esther are able to navigate. Now, this isn't in Israel. This is in the Medo-Persian Empire.
This is when they were taken captive. This is what they had to deal with. Extermination. Wow. On a certain day, everybody's going to kill people that are Hebrews. That's the edict that's been out, sent out, mailed out, emailed out, tweeted out, and it is out over the airwaves. And people are freaking out. People are tripping out. Is this what our government's doing? Holy cow. Probably tripping out on all this. But there's inner things going on in those in power's hearts and in their minds. There's backstories of backstories, family backstories of family backstories. And they're living out their life. And sometimes it comes out through incredible, harsh ways, right? At the expense of, quote, the little people, So we can see the fruits of our prejudice and our hatred towards one another in this chapter, and how it can really turn ugly when power structures get a hold of this kind of prejudice and hatred. And it can become a law, And boy, that's rough, for sure. That's why growing up in the 90s, I remember Fight the Power, all the cool, bands, Public Enemy, different things that came out that was really trying to help people understand that we have to kind of do what Mordecai's going to have to do, and that is go against the structure here and go against the grain. So a lot of courage, incredible amount of courage is going to happen and going to need to happen to really deal with this situation. And boy, can we pray for courage today in our own lives, right? God, give me courage to write the necessary letters I need to write, right? To make the calls I need to make, to say what I need to say, to deal with the conflicts that are in my life. Yeah. So very cool devotion, good time in the Word. You guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you later, okay? Lord willing. Bye-bye.